Hi, in this video we're going to build a local first to-do app using TinyBase. To make this tutorial more fun, we're also going to create a sync server to sync data between clients. So if that sounds fun, let's get started. Just as a reference, guys, we're going to be using TinyBase, and if you want to learn more about TinyBase, just go to tinybase.org and you're going to find all you need about TinyBase. Also, if you want to learn more about the local first architecture with Expo, we have this great document that will get you started. In this case, we're going to be using TinyBase, but with Expo, you have the flexibility to use the local first architecture using Legend State, for example, in this case, TinyBase, SQLite, YJS, Prisma, Jazz, and so many more tools. I also quickly want to mention that this tutorial is targeting beginners and people that are getting started in local first world. And if you want to create a more complex, or if you want to learn more advanced patterns using TinyBase, I have this great tutorial that you can check out here in the document. So the link is going to be in the doc. That's it. Now let's get started building this project. Cool. So I'm going to be using Cursor for this. And I just went ahead and create a new folder called To Do App with TinyBase and open this in Cursor. So I don't have anything yet. And because this is going to be kind of like a full stack application, let's go ahead and create two folders, one for the client and the other one for the server. So the client is going to be the Expo app. Let's open the terminal and cd into the client. And for my client, I'm going to run, I'm going to be using bun. So I'll say bun create Expo app, and I have to say dash. And because I want to create this Expo app within this client folder, I'll just pass the dots like that. So this is going to start the application, as you can see. And here we have the default template that comes with Expo. Now we can start the server by saying npx expo start. And now I'll press I. Another cool thing is that TinyBase works with Expo Go, which is going to allow us to move faster and develop faster. Okay, so the application is running. And yeah, so now the next thing that I want to do is stop the server and install the dependencies that we're going to be using for the application. So let's say npx expo install, and I'm going to install Expo SQLite as well as TinyBase. All right, so let's hit enter, and this should be fairly fast, as you can see there. And now we are good to go. So let's start the server again and reload the app just to make sure that everything still works. Cool, it's working. So I'll hide the terminal, and now let's go to the app, which is where the navigation is, and I'll go to my index, and I'll be working in this screen. So let's go ahead and replace this. All right, so I'll just have a simple view, and then I'll pass the type title to my task. Now I'm going to be writing the styles inline so that it's easier for everyone to understand. So let's center the items. And now we have this really nice screen and clean screen, and also works in dark mode because I'm using the theme text that comes with the template. Cool. Okay, so to start using TinyBase, the first thing that I need to do is wrap my application with the TinyBase provider. So let's go to the entry point, which is this layout, and then I'll import the provider from TinyBase provider. This is coming from TinyBase/UI React, and let's use this TinyBase provider. I'm renaming it. The default name is provider, but it's a good practice to rename it. Even better if you have many providers. So let's pass this in here and let's hit save. And that's it. Now we are going to start writing the store. And I created these two functions asking ChatGPT to generate a function that generates a random task and another one that generates a random ID. Cool. So now let's try to define a little bit of the data that we're going to be saving in TinyBase. So the first thing is going to be a table name. Now let's define the cells that we are going to have in this table. So in this case, we can follow the same approach. So in this case, I can say text, and I'll say cell, and let's just say text. And then done cell, this could be done. Okay, so let's try to keep it super simple for now. Just the text and done cells. Now in the home screen, let's create a new store. So I'll say store equal to, and from here we can use a hook from TinyBase called use create mergeable store. We also have create store, but in this case, we are interested in merging data so that we can sync later with other clients. So let's use the create mergeable store like this. this is going to take a function that should return a mergeable store. So in this case, we can call create mergeable store as well from TinyBase. And now let me fix this typo. All right, so let's hit save. Let's see if the app still works. Yeah, it still works. If you remember, in the main layout, we added the TinyBase provider, but this provider doesn't have context of this store. So let's provide this store to the context so that we can access the store in all the components. So I'll say use provide store from TinyBase as well. And this hook is basically, this is going to inject this store into the provider so that all the children inside the provider can have access to this store. So let's pass the store ID. My store ID is going to have the table name, and then we pass the store. If you prefer, you can do this in here and just pass the store like that. Okay, so yeah. All right, so now let's create a component to add a to-do. So I'll say function add task, and then let's return for now just a simple button from React Native that is going to add the task, and then let's add it in here. Okay, so I have this in here, so this is working fine, and when I press, I want to add a new task. So first of all, I need to grab the instance of the store by using this hook use store from TinyBase as well. So all this is coming from TinyBase, as you can see here. And then once I have the instance of the store, I can do stuff on the store, like for example, set cell or set row. So in this case, I want to call add row. And then this is going to ask me for the table name. So let's pass the table name and then the row. And this is how it looks. Now let me just call this generate random task. Okay, so here we are adding a row, but of course we need to wrap this into a function. So let's create a function and let's close it and call this function when we press this button. So let's hit save. And now after this, I want to show the items in the home screen. So for this, we can create another component. I'll create a quick component in here that is going to be called task list. And as you can see, we can use again the store. In here, I'm going to return a flat list from React Native. And for the data in this flat list, I'm going to pass using the hook use sorted row IDs. Let's pass the table name. This is going to return an array, and then we can render the item. Now in this case, we are going to pass just the item like that. So after we create the store, I'm going to call this use create Persister from TinyBase, and we need to pass the store. So let's pass the store so that we can persist it. And then we need to let TinyBase that we are using Expo. So in this case, we need to import from TinyBase persisters, TinyBase persister Expo SQLite. So let's grab this in here, create Expo SQLite persister. Let's go back in here, and in here, let's call this with the store. Now this is the point where we use Expo SQLite. So I'm going to import all as SQLite from Expo SQLite. Let's go down here. And in here, we're going to create our database. So I'll say SQLite.open database sync, and then the name of the database. So in this case, you can say app.db or tasks.db, doesn't really matter. So after this, we can have create depths. In this case, we don't want anything. And finally, we have a then callback that gets the persister. So we can get the persister and call load then persister.start autosave. And I have a little warning, so I'll just ignore this for now, just to see if this works. Okay, so this is working, as you can see, because if I'm adding tasks and then reloading, you can see that now I have items, but these items are coming from the, I believe, get rows IDs. Okay, so this is working fine. So let's go ahead and use this. I'll copy and paste it in here. Okay, now I'm able to see the numbers. That's good. And we can actually rename this if we want to, like say ID and then grab the ID in here. So in this case, what I want to do now is just make this a bit more complicated. Like for example, using curly braces, I can have a return, and then inside of this, I can use the store to get the entire to do. So I can say store or maybe const task equal to store get row, and then we pass the ID. So let's see, then we can have a view with the text.cellID. So in this case, as you can see, we get the values. So we are basically searching by ID for each item that we are rendering. And if I start adding more stuff, and if I reload, you should see that I have more items. Okay, and in this case, I'll be using this use row IDs hook and passing the store. And if I start updating now, this will update as well the components or the list, and it's going to re-render everything. So this means that this is working fine. Now let's see if we can render as well the ID for now. Let's pass it in here. And as you can see, it's just an ID that is increasing for each item that we are creating. And now we can add more functionality. As you might imagine by now, we can change this to be an pressable. And whenever we press, we can say store, delete row, and then we need to pass the table name and the row ID. So let's hit save. And let's see if this works. If I start pressing stuff, it's going to be deleted. Awesome, so this is working fine. And as you can see now, the item, for example, the ID 6 gets reutilized because it was deleted. Cool. All right, so now that we have these items and we can create and delete, we could actually update if we wanted to. Also in this component, that would be the place to do it. But what I want to show you now is going to be the sync server. So for the sync part of this application, I want to use durable objects from Cloudflare. And if you don't know about durable objects, you can go to the documentation and learn more about it. Let me change this to be dark. But basically, durable objects are used for real-time applications, and they provide real-time functionality. And we can use WebSocket to connect to the server, and this is going to keep synced all the clients using TinyBase on the server as well. So if you want to learn more about durable objects, you can also check out the other tutorial that I mentioned before, and the link is in the description. But basically, it's just like a serverless solution for real-time applications, right? So if you press the get started, you can see the walkthrough. So I'm going to be using actually this command to create a new project. So let's copy this command and go back to the project. I will create a new terminal. And if you remember, we created this server folder. What I'll do now is just go ahead and delete that and paste this in here. I'm going to be using bun. So I'll say bun create Cloudflare latest durable object starter. So let's hit enter. One more thing I want to mention is that it's super easy to deploy your server if you're using Cloudflare as well. Just one thing is that you have to pay $5 to Cloudflare. At the time that I'm recording this video, you have to pay. But anyways, in this case, we need to select the directory. Where do you want to create this application? Also used as application name. So I'll say server and hit enter. That's why I deleted the server. I'm going to create a new server folder with this project. And then what would you like to start with? In this case, I will select the Hello World example, and then we can select the Hello World worker using durable objects. In this case, we're using TypeScript, and let's hit enter again. Do you want to use Git? I'll say no. Do you want to deploy your application? I'll say no for now. So this is ready. As you can see on the left, we have now this server folder, and we can start doing stuff in here. Inside this source, you're going to find this index, which is using a durable object and a bunch of information from Cloudflare. So let me clean this a little bit. Okay, so this is basically what we have in here. Nothing much, just a class that extends durable object. Now from here, I want to see the into the server in my terminal. And we need to install TinyBase in the server as well. So let's say bun install TinyBase and hit enter. Cool, that was quick. So now I can come here and import these things. So first of all, create Mergeable store from TinyBase, and then create durable object storage Persister using TinyBase Persister, selecting durable object storage, and then get WebSocket server durable object fetch and WebSocket server durable object. So basically TinyBase is going to do everything for us. It's going to create a WebSocket that we can then connect from the client. Okay, so now this won't be extending from durable object. So let's go ahead and instead extend from WebSocket server durable object. Then we call create persister, and I'll return create durable object persister. Let's call create mergeable store. And finally, we need to pass the storage for the durable object. So this is going to come from the context of this durable object. So let's grab this storage like this. And finally, we need to export the fetch function. So the fetch function is going to call get WebSocket server durable object fetch. And then this is going to take the namespace. So the namespace, it's actually in the wrangler.toml. If you see, this is like the configuration for your project, like where is the index, the name, and things like that. But we also have a durable object section that you can see here, and the name, it's my durable object. So this is what I want to use in here, and hit save. You can change these values, of course. All right, so now let's see if this works. Just to make sure that we are on the same page, let's go to the package JSON, and you can see that we can start the server just by saying bun run start. And this is going to start the worker, and now it's running on the local host 8787. If we try to access, you can see that we're going to get this upgrade required text. That's fine. This is because this is not an HTTP server, but instead it's a WebSocket server. So let's close this. Let's now go back to the client. Now we need to do something similar to use create persister, but in this case, it's going to be use create synchronizer. So the synchronizer is going to take the store. Let's pass the store. Second parameter, it's going to be the create callback function. This is actually going to be an async function. So inside this function, I'll create the synchronizer. So let's say const synchronizer, and then we need to await this, calling create synchronizer. Then we need to pass the store and the WebSocket. In this case, I'm passing my local host 8787. It's worth noting that if you have this deployed, you need to change this to be a secure connection. In this case, this is just localhost, so 1S should do it. Okay, after this, I will say await sync, and then I will call start sync. And finally, we return the synchronizer. Let's hit save. Let's reload. Everything still works. Now what I want to do is just open this on Android and see if this works. So in this case, we need to test using WS only. And then at the end, I am passing this slash. Okay, so this is how I'm writing the sync. Another thing to notice is that if you want to test this on Android, like I was trying to do right now, this is my Android device, and here I have the iPhone SE. Let me bring as well this device. So Android doesn't support an unsecure connection. You need to deploy your server to have a secure connection. So right now, once we have this line in here, basically all the things that we have in the store are going to be synced using the durable object in here. So as you can see, if I start adding stuff on the right, you can see it on the left instantly. And if I do the same from the left and start removing, adding stuff in both of these, TinyBase is going to handle the sync using the durable object as well as the conflicts between data. So you can rest assured that at the end of the day, these two clients are going to end with the same data. Now, just to confirm that this is not going to work using an unsecure connection, you can see that this is only going to work, but it's not going to sync until we have a secure WebSocket. So to deploy it, actually it's super easy, and we could actually do it right now just for fun. So if we go to the server and if we check the package JSON of the server, you can see that we have a Wrangler deployed, and this is going to work as follows. We can simply say bun. Oh, sorry, I'm in the client, by the way. So let me go to the server. So let me go to the server, add stop the server, and clear the terminal and say bun run deploy. So because I already had my account inside of this gave me this server, and this is where my server is deployed. And if I try to click on this and open this, you can see that we have the same because this is a WebSocket. So let's go again to the client and change this. I'll duplicate and comment one of these, and the other one is going to be this one. So let me add this slash at the end, and also let's add the secure like that. Now let's restart the server. I'll say Expo start and reload my applications. Let's go back. And now you can see that the sync is happening across all devices. And if I start adding stuff on the Android one, it's going to get updated in all the clients. And from here, we can edit data from any device, and this will work just fine in real time using Cloudflare and TinyBase. And that brings us till the end of this video, guys. I hope you like this video. Remember, this is for beginners, but if you want to do more complicated stuff, I would highly recommend to check out the other video. Once you know the basics of TinyBase and durable objects like we did in this basic example with synchronization, you should be good to go to the next level and check out the other video. So just to recap, we learned how to install and configure TinyBase to store data offline. And also we learned how to create a sync server using a durable object. We deploy it using Cloudflare and we test it on Android and iOS. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.